Welcome, everyone. Today, we would like to light our chalice with a quote from Thomas Jefferson. All eyes are opened, or opening, to the rights of man. The general spread of the light of science has already laid open to every view the palpable truth that the mass of mankind has not been born with saddles on their backs, nor a favored few, booted and spurred, ready to ride them legitimately. Thomas Jefferson wrote those words, referring to the light of science opening our eyes to human rights in 1826. It was in the last known letter that he wrote before he died. It was 50 years after he wrote the Declaration of Independence. And during those 50 years, our young country was becoming a model of democracy and religious freedom, to the surprise of the rest of the world. So, how did a colony of the British Empire become a secular democracy in a time when virtually all countries were ruled by monarchies, and virtually all countries had an official religion of the state? The full answer to this question is way more complicated than I would be able to present in one sermon. But I do believe that I can say without hesitation, our first three presidents had a huge impact on making that happen. If any of our first three presidents believed in a state religion, it would have dramatically changed the history of our country and the world. Despite this, there are many who want to use revisionist history to tell us what our founding fathers believed. There are many who would say that our founding fathers wished for us to be a Protestant Christian nation. On the other hand, I've seen websites that try to claim that most of our founding fathers were atheist or even anti-Christian. So I've done a bit of research on the faiths of our founding fathers. I found this book by David Holmes, The Faiths of the Founding Fathers, to be without agenda and truly enlightening. This book was the primary source of my sermon today, but I did check many other resources. But I really wanted to make sure I found a source that was not looking for an answer before doing the research. My research also helped me to understand the Unitarian history of our faith much more clearly. As although all three presidents were raised attending Christian churches, all three were significantly impacted by the school of religious thought known as deism. Deism has been defined as a rationalistic, critical approach to theism with an emphasis on natural theology. The deists attempted to reduce religion to what they regarded as its most foundational, rationally justifiable elements. This tended to specifically exclude the concept of God as a trinity, which was seen by deists as less rational. And this religious philosophy clearly impacted the beginnings of Unitarianism. So, allow me to discuss the faith of our first president, George Washington. There are those who claim that he was not Christian. Well, they're clearly wrong. And there are those who claim he was evangelical and wanted to spread the truth of Jesus Christ. Well, they are clearly wrong. Because George Washington was an Anglican/Episcopalian, whether you're talking before or after the Revolution. And he attended and financially supported his church. But his attendance was inconsistent, and he was never confirmed, and he never went up to receive communion. It was something he never participated in. And in his letters and public speeches, he almost never mentions Jesus, even when writing to Christian churches. David Holmes, who's of this book, writes that no historian should depict Washington as anything other than a Christian. He attended Christian churches, he supported Christian churches. But the stories of writers who depict Washington as a model of Christian orthodoxy have no more basis in fact than the story of the cherry tree. What President Washington displayed much more clearly than his religious beliefs, because he did not try to push his religious beliefs on anyone, was his clear support for the freedom of religion. He was private about his faith, although when he traveled with his soldiers, he made sure that there was a clergyman with them to give the soldiers a chance to worship if they wished. He wrote, "We have abundant reason to rejoice that in this land the light of truth and reason has triumphed over the power of bigotry and superstition, and that every person may here worship God according to the dictates of his own heart. In this enlightened age, and in this land of equal liberty, it is our boast that a man's religious tenets will not forfeit the protection of the laws, nor deprive him of the right of attaining and holding the highest offices that are known in the United States." Clearly not evangelical. And George Washington was so admired that he could have become king if he so wished, but he believed in democracy too much. He was so admired that he could have converted much of the nation to whatever his personal faith was, but he believed in the freedom of religion too much. Washington was clearly more concerned with morality and ethics than with adhering to a religious doctrine. What faith is more concerned with morality and worshiping God according to the dictates of one's own heart than with doctrine? Which faith is that? I think that the answer to that question is the faith of our second president. President John Adams was Unitarian. He's one of 4 presidents who were officially Unitarian. We are very well represented. Our second president, though, was raised in a devout Puritan congregational faith. His father was a deacon. His family sat in a pew to the left of the pulpit, and he attended 2 services each and every Sunday. His father wished for him to become a minister. However, a change in preachers when Adams was 10 may have greatly impacted his path. The new preacher, Lemuel Bryant, was influenced by the Enlightenment and deistic philosophy, and was more liberal than the orthodox Puritan doctrine of the day. And that led to significant controversy within his congregation. And Bryant came under fire from surrounding clergy for unsound doctrine. John Adams wrote that he witnessed a spirit of dogmatism and bigotry in clergy and laity that led him to choose teaching and the law rather than ministry. Despite turning away from ministry, Adams did describe himself as a church-going animal in his college and his early professional years, attending services of all the different churches in the area, sometimes 2 or 3 different services each Sunday. He maintained a diary during this time and often commented on the sermon, the music, and the atmosphere of these services. During this time he wrote, "I hate polemical politics and polemical divinity. My religion is founded on the love of God and my neighbor, on the hope of pardon for my offenses, upon contrition, upon the duty as well as the necessity of enduring with patience the inevitable evils of life, and the duty of doing no wrong but all the good I can to the creation of which I am but an infant, a tiny part." Yes, so trying to say infinitesimal wasn't going to happen. Adams continued his responsible search for truth and meaning throughout his life. And related to this, he consistently demonstrated a strong belief in the importance of religious freedom. For example, despite his strong Christian faith, as president, John Adams completed a treaty with the Muslim nation of Tripoli, declaring that the government of the United States is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion. Before he died, John Adams said to his granddaughter, "The longer I live, The more I read, the more questions I have. Love and walk humbly. This is enough. Advice from a true Unitarian. With these thoughts, could everyone rise as they are willing and able to sing number 290, Bring, O Past, Your Eye.
Hi, I'm Zoe Beck. I'd like to light 2 candles. One in gratefulness for my brother Paul, who died of colon cancer some years ago. He was born on April 2nd, and this year I decided, instead of remembering his death with grief and loss and sharing that with my brother and sisters, I'd ask my brother and sisters for memories about when he was born, to celebrate a birthday. And so my older brother, shared this one with me. He was 6 years older than Paul, and it was back in the early days of this country. And with 5 kids, food was hard to come by. So he went spearfishing when the carp and pike would come up the creeks of Michigan. And one day he figured Paul was old enough to learn how to spearfish, so he took him along. Now you do the best spearfishing right about dusk. So they waded into the creek, and when they'd see a wiggle, they'd spear. Bob speared Paul in the leg. Bob said he never shared that memory with anybody because he was so ashamed. He was the older brother. He put Paul on the handlebars of his bicycle and raced home to Mom, who took Paul to the doctor, and Paul obviously survived. But that was a great story to share with my family. The second candle I'd like to light is to pray for the smooth functioning gifts and talents of our medical personnel, because I had some tests done. I was having symptoms, and the doctor was concerned the cancer had come back. On Monday at 1:30 in the afternoon, a very nice young man from my doctor's office called to tell me, "Zoe, I'm so sorry, but your cancer has reoccurred and it's metastasized to the liver and spine." I asked him to repeat it twice, because I didn't believe it. I said, "Right now I'm at the hospital, but I'm obviously not going to be able to do any chaplain work for the rest of this afternoon, so I'm going to hand off the pager to somebody else, and I'll be at your office in an hour to pick up a copy of those reports." I went to the office, got the reports, stood right there in the busy waiting room, ripped that envelope open, read the reports, and then knocked on the little glass to the office and said, "Malcolm, could you come out here, please?" Handed in the reports and I said, "I'm not sure I'm reading this right." And he read it and he said, "I don't understand. It says here there's no reoccurrence of cancer and no metastasis. But the doctor's note." I said, "That's why they're urging doctors to go to computers, because doctors get distracted and their writing is lousy." And he looked just devastated. And I, of course, had done a roller coaster of emotions, but I'm a chaplain, so I said, "Malcolm, how did you feel when you had to call me with that kind of news?" He said, "I was so sad." I said, "Well, you did it just right. You were clear, you were calm, and you were gentle." And I gave him a hug. And I went home and said, "I think I'm done for the rest of the week."
I am Jessica Ferguson. I'll be brief. I want to light 2 candles for myself and for the people that I work with this week. On Monday, we lost a coworker, Tom Martin, a wonderful, wonderful, grandfatherly type of guy. Passed away from cancer. It was recurring, so it was a little unexpected that it had come back, but not totally out of the realm. Just a wonderful man, one of those old men that can call you sweetie and honey, and makes you feel all warm inside. He was wonderful, so he will be missed. The second one is another gentleman I work with is having some mental problems, and he was let go this week, and we're a little concerned for his safety, and we're currently a little concerned for our own safety. It's kind of a bad situation, so if you guys just could keep me and my coworkers all in your thoughts, as hopefully next week will be a little bit better.
I have 2 joys, and they're somewhat related. I said a few weeks ago that my sister had been diagnosed with multiple myeloma. She, unfortunately, which is common with radiation to the lower spine, which is near the bowel, had what they call radiation toxicity, which results in a lot of nausea and, as you can expect, other things. So she suffered with that quite severely, and actually, right before Easter weekend, was hospitalized in order to have IV treatment of fluids and anti-nausea medication. She's done much, much better this week. She only had 3 more treatments of the radiation. They said, "That's fine, we'll skip it, we'll go on to the chemo when you've got your strength back." Well, she's done beautifully. I spoke with her yesterday. Her voice is strong. She's starting chemo next week, next Wednesday, and probably has 4 months of it, but she's in great spirits, and she has gotten her strength back and is continuing to do that. So that's good news. Along with that, my second joy is that my daughter-in-law has had numerous people in her family affected by cancer. She had a great-grandmother and a great-aunt both die of cancer. Her mother and her father had both experienced cancer, and so far, knock on wood, are okay. She has a good friend who has cancer, and now my sister. She is taking the sadness and anger, as she said, that she feels about this disease called cancer, and channeling it into something very constructive. She's organized a team where she works at AT&T, and they're going to raise money for the Jim Calhoun Research Foundation. And so I'm very proud that she's taken what is, you know, a very difficult thing and done something constructive with it. So that's a great joy.
Good morning. I'm Helen Garcia, and I don't get up here very much, so, but I do want to share a great joy this morning. I got a text message from Dina and Dominic a little while ago, and Dina is in labor. They don't want visitors, they don't want anything. But if we could just keep them in our thoughts and prayers today, and probably tomorrow, and for the next 18 years.
My name is Patrick Gedney, and I have a concern. I've been friends with my good friend Jose since the 9th grade. He and I are closer than brothers. On my birthday, which was pretty bad to begin with, he gave me a call, and he's like, Patrick, I'm like, yes. I'm going to get kicked out of my house in 15 days. What? Apparently, the court system has made an ultimatum to kick him and his family have to be out of their house in 15 days with all their stuff, or the city's going to come in and throw all their stuff out and kick them on the street. So keep them in your thoughts, please.
I don't usually do this. I apologize. I forgot a concern. One of the attorneys that I work for had a son who committed suicide 12 years ago. And you probably in the news saw Rick Warren's son who committed suicide. If you would just keep all those people who have loved ones who commit suicide or friends who commit suicide in your thoughts, it is a tough, tough thing. Every year my boss, the anniversary of his death falls on a weekday, takes the day off. He is Jewish, he knows this temple, he's good friends with Rabbi Dana, and the whole family was really affected, and for many, many years they tried to treat his depression, and it just did not work. And to this day, he tears up when he speaks about his son. So if you keep him and his family in your thoughts, it would be very important.
Like additional candle for those concerns, joys, left in our hearts, but not so bad.
Thank you to those who shared. I would like to share a little bit now about the faith of Thomas Jefferson, which actually is the reason why I chose this topic to talk about in the first place. I had always known that Thomas Jefferson was a fierce defender of religious freedom, that he was one of the major proponents to make sure that freedom of religion was in the Bill of Rights, and he wrote Virginia's Act for Establishing Religious Freedom, making Virginia one of the first states to do so following the joining together as one nation. But I recently became aware that Thomas Jefferson created his own Bible, which I found absolutely fascinating. Thomas Jefferson got 8 Bibles, 2 English King James, 2 French, 2 Greek, and 2 Latin. And he took those Bibles and cut out all of the passages that he felt described the history and teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. He took out and left behind fantastical elements that defied his own personal sense of reason. So he spent countless hours cutting and pasting passages from these 8 Bibles, and he used 2 of each because he needed to be able to use the backs and fronts of pages. And actually with a razor, cut and pasted sections of these Bibles, taking out the virgin birth, taking out the resurrection, and taking out all of the miracles which he felt did not meet his sense of what was reason. He personally felt that the words of Jesus were distorted by those who told his story at a later time, and that his Bible was more true to what Jesus would have wanted. He recognized that that was his own personal view, and went through all this work and all of this money to bind it in the best binding that could be bought at the time for his own personal use. It was something he said that he then read on virtually a nightly basis because he believed so strongly in the morality of Jesus and how that could help him be a more moral person. If you're interested, the Smithsonian Institute has this Bible and went through a tremendous amount to restore it. The restoration process was very difficult because they had to take into account the chemistry of 9 different types of paper, because the paper of each of the 8 Bibles, plus the paper that he used, as well as the glue, and all the other chemicals, and how to restore that so that the pages could still be used and looked at. So it's now took all of the New Testament and put it into the 84 pages in the 4 languages that he thought would help give him the most accurate representation, because he wanted to make sure it was in Greek, which was the original language. He wanted it in Latin and French and English, so that he had all the different translations and nuances, because French and English were the languages he spoke best. But Greek and Latin he thought were more true to the original. He wanted as much of the nuances of Jesus' statements as possible. He indicated that the writers of the New Testament had mixed in so much ignorance, so much absurdity, so much untruth, charlatanism, and imposture, as to pronounce it impossible that such contradictions should have proceeded from the same being who gave all those great correct morality and the most lovely benevolence. So this says so much about Jefferson's belief. A rational man who believed in science, but found the morals of Jesus to have such great meaning. And this is something that I find very inspirational to all of us who are free thinkers, to all of us who want to understand morality in a deeper way, to recognize that such a brilliant man did so much of his own research to find a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. I would like to end my discussion about Jefferson, particularly with a quote from a letter he wrote to a Unitarian friend of his. It says, "No one sees with greater pleasure than myself the progress of reason in its advances towards rational Christianity. When we shall have done away the incomprehensible jargon of the Trinitarianism arithmetic, that 3 are 1 and 1 is 3, when we shall have knocked down the artificial scaffolding reared to mask from view the simple structure of Jesus. When in short, we shall have unlearned everything which has been taught since his day, and got back to the pure and simple doctrines he stated, we shall then be truly and worthily his disciples. In the present advance of truth, which we both approve, I know that you and I may not think alike on all points. As the Creator has made no two faces alike, so no two minds, and probably no two creeds. We well know that among Unitarians themselves there are strong shades of difference, so there may be peculiarities in your creed and in mine. I do not wish to trouble the world with mine, nor be troubled from them. These accounts are to be settled only with him who made us, and to him we leave it. So for all of us who do not think alike on all points, I ask you to take a second to contribute to this faith, where we are not just accepted, but encouraged to use reason and search for our own